Hey everyone, Justin here. Can you guess what kind of career we'll be talking about today? Nah, not a knight in shining armor. Not exactly. But like these brave warriors of old, this occupation is full of adventure and excitement while also being an opportunity to help people. Stay tuned to find out more.
When I was young, I actually I had a funny idea about what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be a knight of the round table.
That's Joshua Johnson. Currently, Joshua is stationed at the State Department's Operations Center as a watch officer with the Ukraine Crisis Management Task Force. Before that, he served abroad with his family as a consular track officer. Working overseas in the field of diplomacy was one way for him to fulfill his boyhood dream of becoming a knight.
And I remember my parents said that's not really something that exists anymore. And I was disappointed. But I always had that idea in the back of my mind that I would move from country to country and go on a lot of great adventures.
But it wasn't just journeying through this physical world. Joshua also enjoyed the journeys of the mind.
I always liked to read. I was an early reader. I did a lot of reading growing up. I remember when I was a kid, I wrote away to different countries, to their tourist bureaus, and I asked them to send me maps and coins.
Joshua continued to broaden his mind by going to a liberal arts school.
But I really took classes all over. I took economics, I took history, geography, English, biology.
Joshua got to travel when he studied abroad in Austria. After college, he tried some different jobs.
The summer after I graduated, I delivered beer. And so I would try from the store to store to deliver beer. I worked as a park ranger, which was a great job. I worked in environmental education. I worked in vocational rehabilitation. I was working with people who were injured on the job to find them new jobs. I did a lot of different things.
This knight errant was in search of his own special quest. Joshua found it in the Peace Corps.
Being a Peace Corps volunteer was absolutely a key moment in my life, and it's a 2 year, it's a 27-month commitment to a developing nation.
He and his wife served as agricultural volunteers in Gambia, West Africa.
Amazing experience. We lived in a small hut. We had no electricity. We had no running water. We cut our own firewood. We boiled our own water.
This pivotal moment in Joshua's life led to another.
While I was there, I took the Foreign Service exam because they had offered it at the embassy.
The Foreign Service consists of consular and diplomatic personnel representing our government's interests abroad.
So our role essentially is to gather information and communicate with foreign host governments on behalf of the U.S. government. We do visa interviews, and we also help American citizens who find themselves in trouble with the law, either because they might have a health incident overseas, or they might unfortunately find themselves in jail or prison.
Remember how much Joshua liked to read and all the different subjects in school he learned about? Well, that came in handy when it came time for him to take the Foreign Service exam.
Because the Foreign Service Officer test, it's a written test, covers all of those subjects. It covers history, geography, economics, management, any topic that you can name could be on this test.
The first time he took it, Joshua scored highly on the written test. But the oral exam was a whole other challenge.
Now, the oral assessment is in person, and you're in a group of, I think, 10 to 12 people, and it's a day-long exam.
This test has 3 parts. First, the group portion, where people are split into small teams and try to solve an unsolvable problem. Next is a structured interview, which is kind of like a normal job interview.
And then the last part is called a case exercise, where you have to take a very difficult puzzle and condense that into a 1 or 2 page solution in a memo format. and and it's extremely challenging.
Challenging is right. Joshua had to take the written and oral test another 2 times before he finally passed. Think that's a lot? Well, some of the other candidates Joshua studied with didn't pass until their 20th attempt. Joshua's quick to point out, though, not passing is not failure.
I don't use the word fail because you can score in the 95th percentile and not be selected. That's not a failure for anyone. That's an A.
Difficult as it may be, the Foreign Service exam is an important step in selecting the most qualified candidates.
So some people might go to the exam, and if you don't really enjoy taking the exam, you probably won't enjoy the work, because the exam is modeled very closely to, well, to an average day. And so we're dealing with situations internationally that are very complicated, and they don't have perfect solutions. And how do you react when you're put in that situation? And how do you react when other people disagree with your suggestions? All of these are taken into account.
But Joshua passed! Woo! Yeah, all right, calm down. So, I bet you're guessing that they just gave him a job offer on the spot, right? Not so fast.
Let's say they hire 500 people this year and you're 550 on the list. You didn't quite make the cut, even though you passed everything. So there are some things that are out of your control.
Even after all that, it still might take a while for you to actually get hired.
So if anyone is interested in pursuing this career, you have to think long term. It's not something you can do on a whim.
When you are hired, you get an invitation to an A100 class.
So your A100 class is an orientation class that's about 2 to 3 months long.
This class is an intense orientation to the Department of State's embassy operation, foreign affairs, and intelligence collection and dissemination. Upon completion, you receive your overseas assignment on a special day known as Flag Day.
And it's an amazing day because you could go anywhere in the world on that day.
Joshua's first assignment was to work at the consulate in Chennai, India. He did visa interviews and helped American citizens in trouble, as described before.
But we have an obligation to provide assistance.
In the Foreign Service, you usually stay at your assignment for 2 years.
So most people will have 1 or 2 careers, but in this life, no matter what, if it's good, it's only 2 years. If it's bad, it's only 2 years. You're constantly changing.
When Joshua completed his assignment in Chennai, he and his family went to Mexico City, where he did consular work similar to his time in India.
And so I learned Spanish for 9 months in Mexico City, and then I did 2 years on the job.
While Joshua enjoyed his time in both countries, he also says it's an adjustment living more simply, without the comforts we take for granted in America.
But it is strange because you're separate from American culture, but a lot of times you see it on social media. So you'll see a movie or artist that people are talking about and not relate to it.
On the other hand, Joshua and his family have been exposed to different languages and cultures.
But for my family, my daughter living in Mexico speaks fluent Spanish. And for her and my kids to be able to see the world in that way is a wonderful gift.
Another reason why Joshua is grateful for being a government worker is the benefits.
It's a competitive salary. It might not match the private sector, but a lot of benefits are involved.
For instance, getting paid regularly every 2 weeks and having a nice place to stay when you and your family are abroad. That's nice.
After enough time in the service, you can compete for promotions. And so I started as a Foreign Service 4 level, and you work your way up to the 1, and then you can join the Senior Foreign Service.
And if you like, you can retire after 20 years on a good pension with healthcare. In Joshua's case, though, he loves work so much.
I wish I could work for 40 years, but we'll see.
For those of you serious about serving our country this way, keep in mind there are a number of foreign services you can work for.
And don't only consider the State Department Foreign Service. You can also look at the Commercial Foreign Service. The Department of Agriculture has a foreign service, and the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has a foreign service as well.
Love for helping others and traveling are important qualities for you would-be knights. But Joshua says that the ideal candidate should also have these traits.
But I think the number one personality type has to be curiosity, because there's so much to know and there's always more to learn. And so I would say curiosity and also judgment.
And one last kind offer from Joshua.
If you're interested in the Foreign Service, reach out to a diplomat because we will talk to you. We're happy to share information and our experiences with you. So just reach out.
From dreams of being a knight to representing our country and helping people across the world, it's been quite the journey. Joshua, thank you so much for reaching out to us about this wonderful career path and for reminding us that it's never too late to fulfill your childhood dreams. See you all next time.